Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 210 of our trip around the United States. I hope you are very excited tonight about getting a chance to be able to speak with us, because I am very excited tonight to be able to take a break from what we've been doing on the road day after day for the last 210 days straight, and be able to talk to you guys about what we've been doing and what we have coming up ahead. So I have a few things I wanted to talk about first, and then we'll go ahead and get to any questions you may have about our journey, either what we've done before or what we have coming up ahead of us. But the very first thing that I want to start off with tonight is a big shout out to the Texas Geocachers Association. I spent the better part of the month of January in the state of Texas, and the Texas Geocachers Association, from beginning to end, was phenomenal. The Texas Geocachers Association president reached out to me before I came into the state of Texas and basically said, "Hey, I know you're coming into Texas. I've been talking with Indigo Parish and some of the other geocachers around the area, and we'd like to be able to host events for you if your schedule will allow it." And I was like, "Well, of course, but my schedule is pretty busy. So here are the days I have available." And they all worked around my schedule and made events possible so that I could meet a lot of the local geocachers in the Texas area and get to meet a lot of the people who make the game go round between Austin, Houston, and San Antonio. And a special shout out goes to the two crazy chicks. I stayed with them for a couple of days while I was in San Antonio. And not only were they phenomenal hosts hosting an event and a CETO, but they also sent a gift package out with Indigo Parish for me to have at the end of my completion of the Texas Geocaching County Challenge. And that was something that I really want to share with you guys. So one second here. So along with chicken jerky for Ai-chan, thank you guys. I can tell you Ai-chan always appreciates chicken jerkies. They also sent this card with a gift card to Walmart, because I kind of live in Walmart parking lots these days, and trackable t-shirts like this one, my Texas County Challenger finisher shirt, which I am very, very happy with. But in addition to this awesome short sleeve shirt, they gave me an awesome long sleeve shirt and one of the Texas County Challenger finish hoodies. Look at this. Yeah. Each of these are marked with the Texas County Challenge GC code on the back, as well as my trackable code. Go ahead and feel free to log that. The 254 counties of Texas, and on the front, my finisher number and the final county that I finished with, which was Presidio County, right after we came out of Big Bend National Park, which was an epic Texas adventure, by the way. So finishing off in Presidio County, I was very glad to be able to meet up with Indigo Parish, stamp my name on that logbook, and count myself as challenger number 343 to complete the Texas County Challenge. This is an epic challenge, and if you ever have a chance to do it, Texas is quite the state to explore. It has a little bit of everything. Between east and west, the east side feels a lot more like the East Coast, and the west side feels like the deserts. And when you get down to the southwest corner, you are really out there, quite in the middle of nowhere, let me tell you. They also, with this card, I wanted to read it off here. All right. This picture on the front is from the Oregon Mountains outside of Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is right where I went as soon as I finished the Texas County Challenge. In the card, "Dear Mag and I, congrats on completing the Texas County Challenge. On behalf of the Texas Geocaching Association, South and Central Regions, we want to give you both something to remember us by. We also want to thank you on behalf of all the TXGA members, non-geocachers, and all the muggles that will someday geocache because you took on this amazing journey and videoed all of it in such an incredible manner. Hope to see you out on the trails again. Best wishes in the rest of your journey. Thank you so much to all of the members of the Texas Geocaching Association who helped me all the way along the way, especially the two crazy chicks, because they definitely not only gave me a place to stay for a couple of nights in San Antonio, but when the nights were freezing in Austin, they were rather insistent that I take Ai-chan to a warm place and bed her down for the night. It was so warm, in fact, that she didn't want to leave when the sun rose up. She's like, it's 16 degrees outside, Mag. I don't want anything to do with any of this today. Can we just like stay here? Ai-chan, we got a schedule to keep. This train keeps on rolling. We got to move, girl. All right. So I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to address any questions you guys may have about our journey along the way. So I'm going to scroll back up in the chat and I'm going to read off any questions you have and go ahead and answer them. And as I see more questions while we're talking tonight, I'll go ahead and try to answer them as we go through as well. Dun, dun, dun. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, of course. All right, no questions yet. If you have questions, send them in and we'll go ahead and answer them. But up until then, beside my thanks to the Texas Geocaching Association, I did have a few things I wanted to talk about. As you may notice behind us, we have completely unloaded the Geomobile. All the stuff that we normally keep in the car is right here, unloaded in my brother's house. And this is so every couple of months, we can unpack everything, sort out all the trash, things we don't need anymore, give away things to people that may want it, and repack everything. When you're living on the road in your vehicle, this is essential because no matter how organized you are, and I'm a fairly organized person, things begin to break down after a couple months at a time. And you do need that reset period to get things put back away and put back together once again. I did have a couple questions come in here. From Dan Stafer. Do you miss the guardrails of Kentucky? This much, buddy. I cannot express to you how much I was defeated in Southeast Kentucky. And if you watched my video, Kentucky Fried Caching, you may have seen that while almost every other single video, I have a chipper, upbeat personality. After 3 days of nonstop guardrails and nothing but, I was at the point where I was like, I'm done with Kentucky. I don't want anything to do with this state. I want to go. Let's keep moving. Whatever. Let's go. We ended up putting ourselves almost a full day ahead of schedule because I just kept geocaching through the night just to get out of Kentucky so we could find something that wasn't a guardrail. So the answer to that question succinctly is no. We do not miss those guardrails. By the way, Ai-chan in the last couple of days has hiked the better part of 6 or 7 miles. So this is pretty much the go position for her right now because she is exhausted. We come to Vegas and the first thing that we do whenever we come to the city is go explore some of my favorite spots. And some of those spots you're going to be seeing in the next few days. And this is her first time getting to see them. And while she enjoyed them and they had lots of great smells and great views, her energy's done. So this is as much as you're going to be seeing from her tonight. Although we will be giving her some chicken jerky every now and then, which hopefully will at least get her a little up and moving. We'll see. She can only resist this stuff for so long before she's like, I want a snack. The trackable code for my shirt is on the back here. This is the same for all the apparel I just showed you. And I'll go ahead and read this off as well and make it a little easier on everybody. Anybody who wants to discover me tonight, my trackable code is BMHPBY. That's Bravo, Mike, Hotel, Papa, Bravo, Yankee. From geocaching with GMX2, how is Ai-chan holding up? She's actually doing phenomenally well. We were more than a little concerned with her coming into this trip, and I'm sure it's the smells more than anything, but she's active and engaged every single day. She still spends a lot of time sleeping in the car, normally between 12 to 5. She's passed out pretty hard, but we try and make sure she gets a hike first thing in the morning when we wake up. And if we can swing it, right before the sun goes down in the evening. Those are the two prime times to get her out and walking. Whenever Ai-chan's walking on a trail, she is smelling every single thing she can along the way. And every time we get out of the car, it's a brand new smell for her, something she's never come across before. And I think that more than anything is what keeps her going, because she loves smelling things. That's the logbook for her, is if she can get the scent. I signed it. We're moving on to the next one. Um, From the Mr. Weigel, how is the budget going? What are you spending less on, and what are you spending on more on? That's a pretty good question. So for the budget, we're actually pretty much right on track. We've been spending less on gas overall because I calculated gas prices, assuming that they would peak again after COVID, and they did. But I was a little under what I'd estimated that at. So we're averaging $60 a day in gas, and that's a little less than I was going for. But on the flip side of that, the food prices are astronomical. So my budget for that is usually about 50% above what I'd normally budgeted. So if we'd say spent had $20 a day, we're spending closer to $30 a day to ensure we can continue eating. But between the higher food prices and the slightly lower gas prices that I calculated, it's a wash, and we're about at a zero balance. Things are right where they should be. We also put away quite a bit for parking, state park passes, things like that. And those are also right on point with where we thought. But that was a lot of research on the front end too. We knew that a lot of those states in the northeast part of the country would be better for us to get state park passes, such as Michigan. Whereas a lot of the places we've went through since then, either the state parks are free, or we're not traversing through enough state parks to make the cost of the park passes worth it. And so the nominal fees don't really wash out in the budget compared to the two big expenses, which are gas and food. And really, I mean, gas takes up most of it, vehicle maintenance second, food's a close third between that. From JG9172, are you targeting virtuals and earth caches first, then trade? I don't know what you mean by then trade, but we do target virtuals first. I have learned in my many years of geocaching that virtuals tend to bring you to the most scenic and historic sites in that area. And those are usually places where you can't fit a physical geocache for one reason or another. Either it's in a protected area, or there's just too many people around at that time, whatever the case may be. So they're great sites to visit that aren't always capable of supporting a physical geocache. And so I like to visit the virtuals because 9 out of 10 times, that's exactly where they bring us. And that's exactly the sites that I want to go to. The other 1 out of 10, those don't usually end up making the cuts of the final footage. As for the earth caches, those are not even a secondary consideration. They're more like a third consideration on my target list. When I look for the earth caches, I'm not necessarily looking for the park and grab type earth caches. I'm looking for ones that are already at sites that I want to visit. Either they're at scenic overlooks, um, really interesting natural areas, or other targets of interest, such as waterfalls, natural bridges, things like that. So I kind of use the earth caches as a way to identify the places I already want to go. But I don't earth cache for the sake of earth caching. Whereas with virtuals, I will add them to the list even if they may not necessarily be at a great spot, and see what shakes out at the end of that. Okay. From Dan Stafer again, how are the wife and kids enjoying the videos? um, I think that this question is going to change with time. Right now, my wife watches all of my videos, and I think my son watches them for the most part, though maybe on fast forward. My daughter, not so much. But I think with time, 5, 10 years from now, or even when I get back to Japan and we're going through this together, they'll have a lot more appreciation for it, as I think I will too. Because, 20 years from now, I'm not going to be out there geocaching, climbing mountains, or kayaking rivers, or any of that kind of crazy stuff. So it'll be nice to be able to look back at these videos and see the places that I saw, and the things that I saw as we traveled through the country. And when I'm sitting with them in Japan, I'd like for them to be able to see these things from my perspective. So even if they're not watching it so much now, if I can watch it with them and say, oh, hey, this location, here's the things I wasn't talking about in the video, but here is actually what this location is like. Because I try and give the positive side to everything. And let's be perfectly honest here. Some of the places that I visit, it is very, very difficult to give you the positive side of it because some of these places are not in the best of shape, not as well taken care of as you'd like. So I try and give you the good side of things and leave out all the rest because I that's what I want to capture at the end of this thing. From geocaching with GSM times 2. Are you updating your targets as some of the new virtuals are being released? Unfortunately, I'm not. Once I finished my planning for this and I started into execution, I haven't had time to go back to the map and look ahead and see what's new to add into my target list. The only thing I really have time for is to go look ahead and see what's archived and then double check my counties to ensure that, okay, I had 3 identified for this county, 2 have been archived, this one's still solid. If it looks like it's at risk, I will add another target or 2 to ensure my county's good. But I certainly don't have time to go back through and check for the new virtuals. More so, what's been happening, a lot like the adventure labs, is I'll come into an area, and if I find I'm ahead of schedule a little bit, I will look at the map and see if there's anything of interest in the area that I haven't identified on my target list that might have been a new publication since then. That's how I come across first finds too. Like when I was coming down to the southwest part of Texas, I was looking through the towns that I was passing through and was like, well, I only had a couple targets here because there was nothing here. What are these things? Zoom in on the map, click it. Oh, new publication. Click it. Oh, new publication. Well, I guess I know what I'm going to go find today here in this county. And those turned out pretty well. They were quite the adventure as well. So I do the same thing with the new virtuals, and I do the same thing with the adventure labs. And that has been a big thing from here in Vegas. You guys probably saw that yesterday on the Viva Las Vegas video. I'd gone back through the strip between Harmon and Harmon and Flamingo, which is a very small part of the strip, by the way. And I've already done all the virtuals in there and most of the earth caches except the brand new publications. So having the adventure labs along that portion of the strip gave me the perfect excuse to go ahead and explore a part of the strip that I've been through more times than I can count and see it in a new light because those adventure labs guided me in a different way than the earth caches and the virtuals have. So that's the same exact way when I come into an area that I may be ahead of time, or maybe it's somewhere I've already been before and say, okay, well, how else can I explore this? I'll pull up the Adventure Lab app. I'll search for the virtuals. And if there's something that I haven't seen before, then it's a great way to see it. In the next couple of days, you guys are going to see that coming up in Vegas too, because my brother and I have identified a trail out here that is right next to my old high school that I haven't been on yet. And I'm very excited to get out there and show you guys exactly what it has in store because I knew what the view from my high school was, and looking at the satellite imagery, which is how I geocache, by the way, I can see that on the top of the mesa, all the way around in this trail system, we're going to have a little more than a 200-degree view over the city of Las Vegas from the top of this mesa. I think it's going to be pretty cool, and we're going to hike out there and be able to show you guys this, and I'm excited about that. From just finding our way, with the new V4 virtuals starting to roll out, have you gotten any FTF on virtuals yet? You know, I've never considered an FTF on a virtual. That's a little bit of a mind-boggling prospect, but now that you've said it and now that I'm thinking about it, I will keep my eye out. And if I can get a first to find on a virtual, oh, I'll be going for it, even if it's off route. But as of this point in time, no, I have not gotten a first find on a virtual. I've got to imagine people are running out for those at high speed, like any first to find generally would be. From Ron Davenport, how are you doing exercise-wise? Staying in shape beyond the hikes to the caches. Exercise-wise, the hikes to the caches is pretty much the sum of it. We are driving most of our days. A slow day for us is 6 hours of driving, which give or take is 300 miles. A long day Some of those days in Texas and New Mexico is closer to 500. So we do spend a lot of time driving. But I find it's important for iChun to ensure we're getting exercise every day. So I'm trying to put those trails on the front of the days when I have the opportunity, and into the days when I have the opportunity. So generally speaking, we hike at least a mile almost every single day. If you add in all of the little cash walks here and there, it ends up being closer to 2 or 3 on a general day. But no, we're not doing that much exercise beside that. We do have a Active and Fit Direct membership, which gives us a umbrella of gyms across the country. And I walk into the gym and I show my badge and they say, "Have a good workout." And I'm like, "Thank you." And I walk right past all those workout machines to the bathroom and go take a shower and not work out at all in the gym. And that has not been a thing for us. Not that or pump iron. I'm there after 3 or 4 days on the trail, exhausted, ready to get cleaned up again, and ready for the next day ahead of us. From Dan Stafer. Has the bad side of things been eye-opening? What's been most surprising? That's that's a tough question. So I'm going to answer this fairly honestly, and this is not me necessarily talking bad about anything, but this is me answering the question honestly. There has been some bad sides of things that have been tough for me. Mississippi in particular was very rough. Um, a lot of main streets through across the United States are having troubles. Some towns are doing a fantastic job. They've revitalized it. Their businesses are doing good. They've found ways to bring people in, but those are the minority more than the majority. A lot of main streets across the United States are failing more than not. I have been through countless main streets where the windows are either broken out or boarded up. Half of the businesses or more are closed, and the buildings are abandoned, broken down, graffiti on the side, whether the case may be. And Mississippi was the most prominent of those. Almost every single small town that we drove through in Mississippi, darn near almost, was broken out windows, boarded up windows. It was bad. And so I struggled a little bit with Mississippi just because things were so bad there that it was hard to present the nice side of some of those places. That's not to say it was a bad state. We had a great time there, especially if you haven't watched the Legends video, getting to meet the Vietnam veteran walking around placing wreaths at each of the Vietnam memorial stops of people he'd known and people who had wreaths coming to them. That to me was a hard hitting day. And there were great things about Mississippi, but it was sad to see that the state as a whole is doing so bad in a lot of ways. And like anywhere, I hope that they start to do better. I hope that they find ways to revitalize the main street. But it was a little tough there. Um, and so you see those kind of things across the country, and you wonder, is this happening in other places? Are there things that we can do? What can we change to make this better for the people who live in those areas? And I don't have all those answers. It gets me to wondering here. Okay. From geocaching with GSM times two. The one place that I love was the city that created graffiti walls. Oh, that'll come to me in a minute. And the rules they established for providing new opportunities. What was your favorite surprise on your trip? Oh man, I think you hit on the right place there. In general, my favorite surprise has been discovering towns with fantastic murals. Little places that are barely map dots on what I see, and they not may not even be listed on my overall view. But I get there and I'm just shocked by the amount of murals that they have and how much they have to bring other people into town. For me, I think the one that shocked me the most and the one I'm most excited to talk about was Taylor, in Nebraska. That was the town that had over 200 plywood cutouts of real people all through the town. They were saluting flagpoles and shopping at businesses, walking down Main Street, playing basketball, looking at the church, and all the things in between. So even though Nebraska, that town, didn't have a lot of population, Nebraska in particular, it felt like the entire time we were traveling around Taylor, there were people around everywhere that we could just walk over to and, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? Do you know what's going on with that restaurant business?" And even though there was nobody there, we saw nobody in our time in Taylor. Nobody, I mean nobody. We always felt like there were people around. And those little things make a great difference for cities. We saw Riverside in Iowa, the future birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk. And we were just blown away by how the town went all in and decided that, oh, we're the birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk, but we're the birthplace. And everything between the crosswalk symbols, the restaurants with their signage, museums, the city parks, everything in the town is amazing. And those are the little treasures that we're hoping to bring to you with our journey every day, and that we can show you, and that you can put that little pin on your map and go, hey, that's a place that I'm hoping I'll be able to get to one day. Maybe I'll get to go visit Taylor, Nebraska and see all those plywood cutouts. Maybe I'll get to Iowa, and I'll get to go to Riverside, the future birthplace of Captain James T. Kirk, and see how the town has embraced Star Trek to the fullest. And those little things I really want to share with you guys all along the way. And we still have another 5 months ahead of us. So I'm hoping that we'll still be able to place many more pins on your map as we go. From FF Skippy, have you had any encounters with snakes, scorpions, or other dangerous critters yet? Actually, no. We have not had any encounters with any of those kind of critters yet, which is surprising because I've seen many of those in my time geocaching. And right now we're in the desert, so everything you name sounds like something we should be looking out for. And I do. Oh, like in New Mexico, there was one geocache where we had to flip the aluminum siding off the ground, and the geocache was supposed to be underneath it. My hackles were raised as soon as I knew it was supposed to be under the aluminum siding. I'm like, oh, there's going to be something coiled up here with its tail rattling as soon as I flip this. So I used my boot from a distance, and I kicked it up and stepped back, and it was just a geocache. So it was all good. But you don't know, and you have to be as careful as possible. And as the weather starts to heat up, we do have more potential for those kind of encounters. Fortunately, I grew up in the desert, so I'm aware of a lot of those kind of things that we're going to be dealing with, and I know the things to look out for and the signs to look out for. With a little luck, Aichan and I will be able to avoid those and not find any of those kind of encounters. We did, however, here in Las Vegas in the last couple of days, get out to the trails, and we did encounter a coyote or two. And Aichan was, of course, like, oh, there's a dog over there. We're going to say hi. No, Aichan, not that dog. That's not a dog we're going to say hi to. You just stay right over here. She's not going to meet any coyotes. Maybe I'm being a helicopter parent for my dog, but I just don't feel like it's a good idea here. Okay. From Seebeck Tribe, Lori C. What are next target states for your journey? I am glad you asked this question because I actually had this prepared right here. I have some notes of things I did want to talk to, and that's exactly where we're going now. So once we finished the state of Texas, we were trying to stay on southern real estate. The trick here is it being January right now, we don't want to be anywhere in the northern climates and risk snow and cold conditions. So we wanted to stay along the southern edge of the U.S. as long as possible. Over the last few days, we did New Mexico and Arizona, which was great weather, by the way. Even though it was raining, which was kind of weird for me in that low part of the desert, it was still better than snow. I'll take it. From here in Las Vegas, we're going to be going down to the Yuma Swag Mega event, which is right on the Mexican border. Again, as far south as you can get in the United States. Very important factor from there. Once the Yuma Mega event is over, we're going to move along the southern edge of California and run ourselves along the coast. If you're not aware, anywhere along the coast between Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Francisco, as long as you stay right along that coast area there, the weather is great all the time. You're talking about 60-degree conditions, give or take. And I think that we'll be able to mostly miss the heart of winter as long as we stay along the California coast. The problem is that we run out of southern real estate before we run out of wintertime. So we're going to make our way around the Sierra Nevada mountains. I'm not going there in winter. That just does not sound like a good idea. And we're going to drop down into Death Valley. So that'll be coming up at the end of February. So most of February, we're going to spend rocking through Southern California. Once we hit the Sierra Nevada mountains, we're going to move across northern Arizona, northern New Mexico, and then continue heading east into those counties and pages that we didn't have time for before the onset of winter. We'll finish northern Oklahoma, which we have an event scheduled there in mid-March. Very excited about that as well. Thank you for Tattoo Barbie Girl for hosting that for us. Once we get through the event in Oklahoma, we'll move through Missouri and then circle back around into Kansas and then Colorado and Utah. I'm in Colorado and Utah slightly before I wanted to be because I think that we're still going to be encountering snow conditions, especially in Aspen. But we're going to have to deal with that as we get there. Again, out of Southern real estate, it is what it is. Once we finish in Colorado and Utah, we're going to begin working our way through the northwestern United States. That's going to be Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, and then finishing things off with Washington, Oregon, and then finishing off Northern California, where we didn't have time to because we weren't willing to go up there in winter. So we have a pretty good plan of what we're going to be doing, and we believe firmly that we're going to be done by mid-June and ready to take our trip to Japan and be done with the lower 48 United States. Yeah. I appreciate all the commentary and feedback you guys are giving me here, by the way. Okay, from High Speed Mom 2012. Do you have a favorite spot that really hit you in the sweet spot? For me, it was the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall that we did on the day that was titled Legends. It was, for me, locations are, one location's awesome. One location's awesome. There's a million. But it's a people game. It's a social activity to me. So meeting that veteran that was putting out the memorial wreaths at the wall, to me, made that probably one of the most epic days of our entire trip. So I'm going to have to say that was my hands down favorite. There was a lot of great places that we visited, and I hope a lot of map dots that put on your guys' map, but that was the one that just really hit home for me. From Ron Davenport, how many other veterans have you encountered at all these memorials? So some are more than others. The more located is closer to a highway or major intersection, we encounter more veterans. When we come to the American Legion buildings, we tend to encounter a lot of veterans. But at some of those really far out there locations, it's just I-Chan and I. All in all, I would say that I-Chan and I have probably met at least 36 veterans in our travels who have been at one memorial or another, and we've gotten their story and gotten to shaking hands and just get that oorah sensation of a fellow member who may have been in a different generation, but still served this country of ours. And it is always a humbling experience to get to hear their stories, where they've been, and just the way they see things as well. Everybody has a story. I mean, everybody has a story. And so many of those stories are just fascinating. And I wish I could bring them to you all. We don't have time for that in our format. But let me assure you, there are a ton of fascinating stories out there. And we've met a lot of veterans who have a lot to say about the different wars that they've served in. And it doesn't get old to us. And that's one of the reasons why we really enjoy bringing you those veterans memorials, because each one of those represents to us a veteran who served, a veteran's story in the war they fought, the conflict they served in. And that's individual stories representing millions of lives and millions of people who have served in the defense of our country. And it won't get old. I will finish this trip at day 360-ish. And I will still be in awe of each veteran I meet and each unique story they have to tell. And I hope I can bring more to you like I did in Mississippi, because that was an awesome opportunity. And if they present themselves, I will do exactly that. From Matt Montez, are you going to check out the Sphere? By the way, nice haircut. Okay, so 2 things here. Am I going to check out the Sphere? I meant to do that while I was down at the Strip the other day. It's just the time ran short and we didn't have the time to do so. But I still have a couple days in here in Las Vegas, and I've been hearing a lot about the Sphere, and it's on my to-do list. Now, if I can get over there, I have every intention of doing so because that looks like a really cool spot to feature. As for the haircut, yes, actually, so I just got a haircut from my absolute favorite barber in Las Vegas. He was open today and he had a slot to get me in. So I was like, oh, please, please, love. So he brought me in. Actually, this is when I say a fresh haircut, I think it was just about an hour before we did this live broadcast. So I'm very happy with this. This for me is ideal. And I'll still be wearing a bunch of hats because while I like having hair on my head, after 3 or 4 days on the road, running through the mountains and the trails and everything else Chen and I do, our hair is, very bedhead style. And that's not going to work for me. So that's at least half the reason for the hats. But since I got a fresh cut from my favorite Las Vegas barber, which has been decades, by the way, I could not help but show this off. So Matt Montez, thank you for noticing because yes, I'm very proud of this haircut. It is pretty cool. All right, from geocaching with GSM times two. How many law enforcement officers encounters have you had? A lot less than you would suspect because for the most part, I don't geocache at night anymore. Once the sun goes down, I am trying to finish my target list for the day and I'm cutting targets so that I can just get to the one or two I need for the day and then call it. I'm not trying to run over beyond that. With that said, I have been pulled over a few times. I've only been ticketed once, and the one ticket I received was a speeding ticket in Oklahoma, and it was a speeding trap through and through. It went from 55 to 45 to 35, and the police officer was waiting in the culvert behind the 35 sign. It was like, you were going 46. Like, it was 15 feet between the 45 and 35, but you could tell he had a quarter to fill. He needed some tickets to write. I was one of those. It was a business transaction, and that was it. So we just cut that thing and moved on through, and it is what it is. All the other officers that I've encountered, I have not had any problems with whatsoever. Um, in Texas, I definitely had the most law enforcement officer encounters, but they were all very professional. Most of those were near the border, down near Mexico. I would get pulled over a lot either because I was on a road that had no speed limit signs, and they're like, "Hey, do you know you're speeding?" Was I? Or because, hey, you're looking suspicious. Yeah, well, okay, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere and on the border of Mexico, and I do look suspicious. So, hey, okay. But once I gave them my card, I told them what I was doing. It wasn't a problem. They let me go with a warning. And although one of those times I was speeding, and I do want to thank that particular Texas officer because I could have gotten a speeding ticket and he would have been in the right because I was wrong. He still let me go with the warning. So thank you for that. Um, so I'm staying here with my brother and his son, Jax the Axe. The Jax the Axe is going to be coming out with us for the next couple of days geocaching. And I'm pretty excited to get him out there and show him some of the places he hasn't seen yet around Las Vegas. You excited to get out there?
Yes.
Yep. And Valley of Fire, you looking forward to that? You gonna do this? Do you like getting out there and geocaching?
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
That you try to find stuff and you sometimes you can't find it and then it's like a little piece that you think it's not real.
Like when it's a bolt, but it's not really a bolt, and it comes out and you're like, oh, right? And he's a pretty good geocacher. You're going to see him at work in the next couple of days, and you'll see that despite him being only 10 years old, right?
9.
9 years old. See, I'm giving him extra years because he's so darn good. Despite him only being 9 years old, he is a geocaching legend in his own right. He can get out there, look around the ground zero, and go, oh, it's over there. And we walk over. He never has a GPS in his hand. We walk over, and Jax the Axe is like, there it is. What's next, Meg? And we're moving on, right? You like hanging out with Aichan?
Yeah.
She's a pretty good dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they get to sit together in the back seat. So after we get out and we hike a little bit, Aichan goes and crawls onto Jax the Axe lap and passes out. She's done for the day. And I think he digs it. we're going to go find some good geocaches, right, buddy?
Yep.
Yup, that's right. All right. From Dan Stafer. Was the Mega in Yuma always in the plan? Actually, it was. They had announced the Mega event in Yuma early enough that we had decided that we were going to go ahead and do it even before we'd finished completing our plans. So all we did from that point was wrap the timeline around the Yuma Mega event and extend things out from one side to the other to ensure that we could hit it in the time that we wanted. It actually worked out because we ended up a few days ahead coming out here near Las Vegas. So I have extra time to spend with my brother and my nephew, who you just met, before we head back down to the Yuma Mega event. I really couldn't have asked for things to be any better that way. Yep. From geocaching with GSM ×2. Do you know that it's coyote mating season, so you keep eye-chan away from them? I keep eye-chan away from coyotes because, well, coyotes. There's no good coyote for her to meet. The one that she saw off the edge of the trail was alone, didn't have any buddies with it. But of course, I saw the big bushy tail, its lean figure, and I knew right away, no, that wasn't going to happen. So mating season or not, she's not going to be meeting any of those wild animals. Absolutely not. What else we got here? From Ron Davenport. Always has good questions, by the way. Here's a good one. How many wacky waving arm inflatable tube guys have you now? That is a darn good question. So I film every single wacky waving inflatable tube guy that I come across, but I don't show them all for one reason or another. Right now, I have 3 dozen wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube guy clips that I'm saving in a little archive file, and I have every intention of bringing you a wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube guy video in the upcoming weeks, but not just yet. I want to continue compiling all these footage until I have just the right amount of wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube guys before I bring it all to you. Just know though, that every single one we come across is captured on camera, and we do have a clip from it. And for the people who have traveled with me, Mom, Skeletor 10, Atreides, thank you for your patience with me as I swerve across 3 lanes of traffic to pull off on the edge of the road because I saw a wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube guy at the discount tire, and I really had to capture him. It's a thing. I got to do it. It is what it is. It's the same thing my friends deal with when I see a veterans memorial or a memorial. I have to go visit them. I feel obligated to do so. And whether or not they're going to make it into that day's footage, which it's less than half of all those that make it into the footage, I have every intention of capturing every one of those because I do love the way those guys light up the air and bring you into whatever they're trying to advertise for. Right. I don't see any more questions in the queue yet. So if you have any more, please feel free to send them. In the meantime, I still did have a couple of things I wanted to talk about here. So you guys may notice I have my entire loadout behind me here. So first and foremost, if you haven't noticed it in the clips yet, I have my One Blood water bottle. I earned this water bottle at the time that I finished donating 10 gallons worth of blood. So for me, this water bottle is a pretty big deal. And there's been a couple of videos where I have this, where I'm featured one way or the other drinking out of it. And that all started from before this trip even started. My very last phlebotomist, when I finished hitting my 10-gallon mark, asked me if I could advertise for One Blood with the bottle. And so I've made sure whenever I'm doing any drinking on screen that the logo is showing, and this bottle to me means quite a bit. So for Crystal Downer, who I'm pretty sure is out there in the chat group right now, thank you for all your support since before this even started. Thank you for the awesome water bottle because this works great for me and Daichan. And thank you for all the blood donors who have been out there to donate blood to all those who need it. For those of you who may not be aware, there are a lot of people who need blood for whatever reason in the country every single day, and there's never enough blood available for them. I felt that no more significantly than I was deployed to Iraq. And we had Marines who were injured on the table, bleeding out. They had doctors on one side pressing the wounds, and on the other side, they had them sticking you with needles, connecting you to do a direct donation and give them blood because it was a life-saving measure. And so if you've seen that firsthand with somebody who might be dying next to you, you'll have a greater appreciation for somebody who may be half a city, 50 miles away, but still in need of that life-saving donation. So One Blood, thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for the great water bottle. And thank you for continuing to follow along with me on this journey. I really appreciate it. All right. I do see some people in here I didn't expect. That's great. From Ron Davenport, all that time in the desert and little water. What is your water and fuel loadout going through these long drives with few towns? Also good questions. Oh man, Mind Tip Gaming knows how to think. That's for sure. I carry 8 gallons of water in my car, a 5-gallon and a 3-gallon. I generally work out of the 5-gallon. When that gets empty or low, I try and refill it. If I begin to tap into my 3-gallon reserve, that's when I know I need to be looking for some kind of water station. In a lot of the northeastern states, it was difficult because I was spoiled having grown up in the southern United States. We keep a lot of our water refill stations outside. In the Northeast, they don't do that because of freezing conditions. So you have to go into the grocery stores or other kinds of shopping centers to be able to find those. So it was very difficult for us to continue to refill at commercial places in the Northeast. But in that same light, they also had a lot of artesian wells. So we were able to fill up naturally as our reserves were getting low. Whereas in the southern United States, the same thing that makes it not a problem for those water stations to be outside is also a reason why you can't find any artesian wells. So we've been filling up, and generally speaking, we keep our 8 gallons of water. When we drop below our 5, we fill it up, and Ai-Chen always has enough water available to fill her bowl. As for, what was the second half of this thing? Fuel levels. Driving through certain places, I knew fuel would be a concern. Southwest Texas being one of those, southern New Mexico being another. I was right to be concerned in both because fuel was a concern in both places. So I marked out the places to get gas in each. For example, before heading into Big Bend National Park, we filled up in Marathon. In Big Bend, they have exactly 2 spots you can fill up. One of them is on the Panther Trail, and the other one is down at the Rio Grande Village. Beside that, the only spots to be able to fill up are north of the park, quite a ways, or west of the park, quite a ways. So I'm glad that we filled up at the northern end, because even by the time we got to the gas station in Rio Grande Village, we were already well below half a tank. The same thing happened to us in New Mexico. We filled up in Van Horn, which was the last gas stop before we started into southern New Mexico. And by the time we were reaching Lincoln National Forest, we were close to a quarter of a tank. But then something happened. And then we ended up in Roswell, and we were pretty low on fuel, but anyway, we ended up in Roswell after that. And I'm just glad we made it through that portion of the desert and we still had fuel to make it, because that southern half of New Mexico, there's not much out there. There's not much out there to see, let me tell you. All right, what else we got here? From Ron Davenport. How many oh no, that's for before. Okay, scrolling down. From JG9172, really enjoyed the insight to your daily video production. Any plan to share something similar re the daily routine? That's a good question. Once we finish this trip around the United States, the daily video routine, that's out. That will not be happening anymore. That was specifically because what we're doing around the United States, I thought was conducive to us conducting a daily video routine and us being able to show you day by day, state by state, county by county, what we're doing. And I thought there would be a lot of interesting sites to bring you and show you. Once we finish that, that's out the window. We will still be traveling internationally. So I have every intention of continuing to bring you videos, but it will be nowhere near on a daily basis. I also will be finishing at some point Alaska and Hawaii, and I will be filming both of those and creating videos. But again, the daily format, those are out. Once we finish the entire lower 48 contiguous United States, we're going to be switching over and we'll be posting once a month, once every 2 months, depending on what we're doing. So I definitely hope that everybody stays subscribed, because unlike right now, where you can expect a video every single day, you won't be able to expect that then. But we still have every intention of bringing you great content so that you can see the awesome places that we're seeing outside of the United States at that point. From Den Stafer, are you going to donate this week? I have not donated blood since I hit my 10-gallon mark in Jacksonville, which means that I am 3 donations behind from being able to continue donating right now. I'm more than a little wary of doing that right now, because when I donate blood, usually the next day, if I hike more than half a mile, I just like it exhausts you. Like that little amount of blood loss, you feel it. So with what we're doing every day, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, sleeping 6 hours a night in the car, I don't think that would be a very good idea with donating. So while I will continue to be donating blood, it's definitely a thing now. This is the only year that I'm not doing so, because I don't want to kill myself out there on the trails. And I think that that might do the trick for us. From Ron Davenport, have you encountered any more artesian wells outside of the north? Yeah, absolutely. We encountered artesian wells, heck, all the way down in northern Mississippi. We refilled our water bottles in one. You, as a general audience, you would be shocked at how many places hold artesian wells across this country. But no, the Southwest United States, the desert, low desert area, don't expect that down here. But definitely on the East Coast and the Northeast in particular, you could go pretty well without having to fill water bottles at any kind of commercial station if you plan your trip well enough. And I'd say 4 out of 5 times, Aicha and I filled up our artesian wells. And we probably could have made it to future artesian wells if we would have pushed. But once I hit that near 3 gallon out of 8 mark, I'd rather pay to get some water and be sure that I have enough to sustain me and the dog than try and push on for another week to reach whatever artesian wells ahead of us, because they're not always reliable. Of course, they have geocaches on them, which is great. I love artesian well geocaches. One of my favorites. But even though they may have a geocache listing on them, doesn't mean they're actually flowing. There was one artesian well we came across, and had we put the water bottle under there to fill up, my guess is it would have been about 40 minutes to get there, because it was going, but it was a drip, drip, drip fashion. A 5-gallon bottle, yeah, thanks, but no thanks, not going to happen. Right. I think I've answered all the questions here in the chat. Oh, one more from Geocaching with GSM times 2. And by the way, we are getting near the end of this live stream. So if you have any more questions you'd like to ask, now is the time to push them in. And I will knock them all out, and then this will be over. From GSM times 2. Are you keeping up on your logging? Absolutely, my friend. Before this trip started, the last 13 years before this, I was not active on logging. I would do all my planning, and then I would do the execution portion of the trip, and we would go hard on that. And we would run 20-hour days, a lot of days. And we would do that for 7 to 10 days straight. And I would spend a week or two after the fact logging my geocaches to catch up. With what I'm doing, that is almost an impossible task. I have to keep up with the geocaches, if not to log the DeLorme County challenges, but just for the fact that after a full year on the road, if I calculate that 7 to 10 days across 2 weeks worth of logging, I mean that might take me 8 months worth of backtracking to catch up on logging. That's a no-go for me. So we have made a very solid point of keeping up on our logs all the way along the way. When I complete an earth cache, I don't go home and do the homework. I do it right there on the spot, research whatever we need to do. The only time that doesn't happen is when we don't have signal. And then as soon as we get out of that location, I will sit down, do the research, answer the remaining questions, and send it in. All that happens at the same time. When I have a friend traveling with me, like Skeletor 10, me, Mom, Sam Ferrick, it has been made significantly easier because I can continue driving and they're on the other side researching what we need to find out for the earth caches, getting the answers together, and we can have that answered and still no homework, and I don't have to sit there at a stop at the end of the night and do that kind of thing. But the short answer to that question is all caches get logged same day unless we're in an area that doesn't have signal, and then within the next day or two those are getting logged too. But it is a no homework clause through and through. We are not walking away with anything to do by the time we get to Japan because it's very important that everything's logged on the fly. Because I've done this for a long time and realized that if I'm logging things after the fact, it takes more than twice as long to figure out where I was, what I was doing, and what that particular geocache was. And it'd be very easy to solve if I just had a template log and was like, hey, we found your geocache. Thank you. But I like to include a unique log on each geocache. And so the best way to do that is on the fly as we go. From High Speed Mom 2012. Have you had any car troubles on your adventures during counties? Yes. We have had two flat tires, both of which we were able to get fixed up pretty quickly. We had one in Nebraska, and we had two gentlemen who actually stopped off at the end of the road. We were in the middle of nowhere, by the way. And I was propping up the car, getting it on the jack, getting ready to take the tire off. They stopped to help, and I was like, "Hey, I just gotta break these nuts right now." And the guy goes to the back of his car, and he gets out the tool, and he goes, "Here, you can use this." I'm like, oh, "Thank you so much." So instead of it was that was great. The next time we had a blowout, which we hit the road, the tire popped, tire pressure meter came on, and I stopped a quarter mile down the road. The tire was already completely flat. So whatever I hit, oh, it hit good. And having the experience from having the tire issues in Nebraska, I was able to change that tire out in about 20 minutes flat onto the donut. And we were able to roll into the border Texarkana. We were able to roll in there and get the tire changed at discount tire with no problem. And they actually gave us tires that were rated for snow and mud, which was perfect timing for our schedule because now we have tires that are a little bit rated for the conditions that we're coming across, which we did. When we finished up in Fortuna Fort Hills and we made our way north into Nevada, the GPS had us routing to get to the 95 through some not necessarily well-developed roads. And we got onto a couple of these roads and they were washed out and muddy. And the only reason, I promise you, the only reason I was able to navigate those roads to get to the 95 to head into Vegas was because I had those fresh mud rated tires. If I had the other tires that I've been running on since we started this trip, I'd been sitting out there trying to call AAA with no signal, waiting out in the middle of nowhere in wet, muddy roads. It would have been miserable. So, silver linings. I'm glad that we had that blowout that we did in Oklahoma coming out of Texas because we had better tires that were more suited to the conditions we came across. I think that we've answered all the questions I see in the chat here, and I certainly appreciate all the feedback we've received. Aichan and I have had a great journey from here to now, and I really only expected to have my wife and children watching these videos. So for there to be so many subscribers and so many people that are interested in what we're doing on the road it's humbling to say the least. And we are so glad that all of you are enjoying and interested in the adventure that we're having and want to tune in with us and want to see that we're doing each day along the way. And I'm excited to continue to bring you our adventures and show you all the different places we're seeing that around the United States. Because we've already seen most of the Northeast and, of course, most of the Southwest. But there's still so much more to show you. We still have the entire Northwest part of the country, in future dates, Alaska and Hawaii. And just there's so many amazing sights to see. And by no means are we going to bring them all to you. No matter which of these states you travel to, no matter which geocaches you go for, I promise you, if you keep your eyes open, you will see more interesting sights than what we've been able to bring you. Because there's also a lot of stuff that we cut as well. I try and keep my videos down to about 12 minutes, give or take. And the normal footage is around 30 minutes. So each day, I cut out more than half of the total footage that we see throughout the day so that we can bring you the compressed format of kind of the highlights of the day. As you can see, Ai-chan has not touched that chicken jerky. She is completely exhausted from us being on the road every day. And the fact that she has a bed to lay down in like this, she appreciates wholeheartedly. But I do want to go ahead and give you a goodbye from her. So let's get her to wake up here. Ai-chan. Oh, good. Come on. There we go. All right. I know. So look how tired she is, but she's gonna get right back to sleep. I assure you. Ai-chan, everybody here has been excited to see our journey, and they've been excited to see everything you've been doing along the way. So you want to give a big thank you to everybody out there? Bye, everybody. Thank you. Ai-chan really does appreciate all the fanfare. And thank you guys for continuing to subscribe with us. Like our videos, continue to comment. I appreciate all the feedback that we get and just the fact that you guys are interested in all the sites we see along the way. I hope that we have another great 100+ days of footage to bring you, and I hope you guys continue to join in. Have a good night, everybody.